Hi, welcome back to the farm. My name's Roz, also known as Passion Flower, and you'll find me here each week talking about my farming and creative life. Well, a little bit different this week. I have a different recording setup. I just bought a MacBook Air and I'm trying recording on that so that there is less moving of files around. I'm also recording using this microphone because it is raining outside again, and the sound of the rain is just overwhelming if I didn't have a microphone, and I don't have one apart from the little ones that is the regular plug-in for the computer. So that is that. So it's been a really eventful couple of weeks. I didn't record last week because of the crazy weather that affected us here in Victoria. We had no power, we had flooding, certainly not as bad as a lot of other people, so I'm really grateful for that. But it's been a tough week. So it started out last Wednesday and it was really windy, and we had a tree fall over the road and a fence, so I had to get out and clear that up. It was causing some chaos with the traffic, and someone came and told me that it was across the road. Thank goodness it didn't break the fence, and it also didn't allow any of the cows to get out. So we were able to clear it off the road and then later on chop it off and get it off the fence. That was before the weather actually turned bad. Then that night, Wednesday night, it started to rain and really rain. And it rained all of Wednesday night, all of Thursday. And that's when all of the flooding occurred for us. Our little creek burst its banks. We had water all through the paddocks. It was just ridiculous how much water there was. All of our tanks were overflowing, which I guess is a good thing. But it was just way too much rain. So the rain came first, and then on the Thursday night, it just turned into this horrible windstorm. You could hear it sort of like rolling through the trees, sort of coming towards you. And then our whole house was shaking. We're on stumps, and it just made the whole house shake. It was that strong and just came in these really huge gusts. So we had to deal with that, and that's when our power went out. Now, normally we're the last ones to get our power restored. So we were expecting a long wait once we had sort of understood how bad it was and how far reaching it was. To begin with, we had no idea. So we knew our power was out, but we also had no phone reception. And we were still in COVID lockdown, so we actually couldn't go anywhere anyway. So we're kind of stuck at home with no power. So as we sort of started to get a little bit of news through some very delayed and staggered text messages, we realised just how bad it was. We arranged a generator, so that came back to the house on Thursday night. So by Thursday night we had a version of power. We were able to pump water, which is something when you're rural and you only have tank water, you realise that you actually need the power because otherwise you have no way of getting water. We were very lucky right at the very start because the tanks were so high on that Thursday when we had nothing at all. We were able to get some water out of the tap because we could gravity feed a little bit, but not a lot, just enough for drinking. We were also able to use the generator to keep the fridge cold and the fan for the fire, which was really lovely to be able to keep warm. We used torches and candles for lighting. We didn't want to be putting too much pressure on the generator. And then in the evening, we sort of turned everything else off pretty much except for the fridge, and we tried plugging in our TV, and it actually worked, which was great because it meant that we were able to get some news about what was happening, a bit of an idea of what was going on, and just felt a little bit normal because for a while there it felt quite surreal and weird. So we had no power for Thursday, Friday and Saturday, and it came back on early Sunday morning, which is a surprise for us because normally we're one of the last ones to get power restored. We're on a small section where there aren't a lot of households. So when it comes down to prioritising, often we get left till last. But obviously there was not a lot of damage on our line, so it was easier to do our section, get that done, and then move on to some of the harder sections. Up in the hills, they're still really struggling. There are trees everywhere. They're not going to have power for at least another couple of weeks, which is really, really awful and hard, especially when it's cold and wet like it is now. So I feel so bad for them. It's just been a really tough week, and I think everyone is just absolutely stretched to their max right now. We were certainly really lucky. Obviously, we had the generator, which was great. None of our fences were damaged. We did have some trees down, but they didn't do a ton of damage. It just meant that this past weekend we spent a lot of time cutting wood, moving trees off the fences. None of our animals were harmed. The paddocks are all pretty much back to normal. They're quite wet, but we don't have any flooding anymore. So overall, we are now okay, and things are kind of getting back to normal. Before the worst of the weather hit, I did do a little bit of gardening. I tried to plant some nasturtium seeds out in one of the bank areas out in the garden. I don't know if they're going to take. They were quite old seeds, so I've sort of just done a little section and I'm just now watching to see if any of them sprout. I also played around with moving the dirt to make my wooden seat that I have outside nice and flat and stable, and put it in a nice spot for being able to, once the weather's nice, sit in that spot and sit and knit outside. So it looks like it's fairly solid and flat now. I got out the spirit level and tried to get it all nice and even. So once this rain has finished, which sort of hasn't really finished since those storms last week, it just feels like it just keeps on coming. I'll see how it's gone and if it's washed away at all with the rain, and then perhaps even put like a bit of a frame underneath to hold it in place as well. I also had to do some mowing. There was a break in the weather one day and it started to get a little bit sunny and the grass just come up and grew again. So I have mowed the area around the shed again and Wade's yard, both with the push mower this time, just because it was so wet. There was no way I was going to get the ride on in and be safe. So I have done that, and hopefully that will take us through till the end of winter now, hopefully. Another thing I wanted to share with you was that I got a portrait done of Wade through the Pets of the Homeless charity drive. They do this fundraiser where you submit a photo of your pet and a volunteer artist does a bad portrait for you. And I thought that was quite a fun way to give money to a charity, but also kind of get something in return that was sort of a little bit of a souvenir. So I put in a photo of Wade, and this is what I got back. I think it is really cute. It does really encapsulate a bit of his attitude, and I can imagine that when I'm not in the house, he would sit back with a cigar and a martini and think that he was totally the man of the house. So I really like it. It's a fun little thing that I got done. So as I mentioned, I am recording on my new MacBook Air. So that was my new purchase the last couple of weeks. I'm still getting used to it. I was having a lot of trouble with my old computer. It was taking a really long time to process these videos. The battery was absolute rubbish, It was literally not a laptop anymore. I couldn't unplug it and do anything without the battery just dying. So, and the processing of everything was just really, really slow. So it was time for a new computer. I was tending to do a lot more work on my iPad rather than the computer because I was able to be a bit more portable with it, and the battery is obviously a much better lasting situation. So I investigated MacBooks instead because I thought, well, maybe that would be easier. Everything can talk to each other. I can airdrop things. I can use the cloud, and it just might make more sense to sort of lean more in that direction. So I took the plunge and moved to the dark side. I don't know. So as I said, I'm still getting used to it. I used to use a Mac at work quite a while ago in my office job. But it kind of ran more like a PC. I didn't really use a lot of the Mac features that were available. So I'm getting used to the different keys and the shortcuts and how the apps work, and also just setting up everything so that it's the way that I like it. Hopefully I get used to it. I'm already quite used to the touchpad. The gestures all feel quite normal and natural. I think using an iPad so much, it just kind of feels like the way that everything should be done. So I'm enjoying that. And I'm hoping that the editing and the processing of the video will be easy this week. And I can figure out something with this microphone and everything now and see how I go, and might end up using this as the recording method moving forward. I was able to find and download the same editing software that I have been using. So at least that's something that is the same. We'll see if it works as well on the Mac as it does on the PC, or I might then look to upgrade to something different. At least that is the familiar part right now, so I will be able to at least know the functionality of it. So I've transferred only the files that I need over to this new computer at this point. I'm going to try and keep it really clean and also not do too much sort of internet surfing or sort of fun stuff on this computer, and try and keep it for work. And that way I can then sort of switch off the brain and get the iPad out and do the sort of surfing and stuff like that on there, to sort of delineate it a little bit, and also so that I don't end up clogging up the computer with a whole lot of files and stuff that I really don't need. Well, because there was no power, it was kind of hard to do any serious kind of crafting. It was cold and dark inside even during the day. So I just stuck to knitting socks, and I was able to do that almost by no light at all, just by feel and a little bit of light just to see the start and end of rows. So I did finish the first lot of spiral socks that I'd started a couple of weeks ago, and they look really cool with the two different colours. So I've got the teal for the heel, toes and cuffs, and it is then striped in a spiraling method with wildflowers for the rest of the sock. So then I decided that I'd start a second one, but this time I'm doing the reverse. So I've got wildflowers as the heels, toes and cuffs, and then I'm just spiraling it in the same method with the teal. So I've finished the first one. I've made it slightly shorter than the first sock that I knit, and I have started the second, and I'm still using the crazy Addy needles for these. I only worked on my Radiate for a little while. I have tried it on, and the sleeve I have done down to about here somewhere. I've done a couple less decreases on the sleeve. I wanted it to be a little bit loose around my elbow so that I can push up the sleeves and not have it really form fitted. So I am close to getting to the hem where I will do the green like I did on the bottom of the body, but I just haven't been in the mood to work on it really. So it's just been socks all the time. Well, that's it for another week. Thanks for spending some time with me. If you're enjoying these videos, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and I look forward to seeing you next week on the farm. Bye.